This is the Pal Talk News Network.
The views expressed are solely those of the speaker and not necessarily those of paltalk.com, AVN Software, or its advertisers.
News Talk is online. News Talk Online is a production of paltalk.com, the largest multimedia interactive program on the internet with more than 4 million unique users on demand on iTunes and on YouTube and on Blip TV and on my blog, GaryBaumgarten.com, where you're encouraged to post your comments, whether you agree with yours truly or not. No retribution. And thanks to our good friends at CRN Digital Talk Radio, we're syndicated to an additional 12 million households. I am your host, Gary Baumgarten. I welcome you to the show, and I remind you, as I always do, that you should be going to our website, paltalknewsnetwork.com. Go there early, go there often, just like voting in Chicago, to read the latest news that you may or may not see, hear, or read in the mainstream media. We're non-ideological, which means that there are a multitude of viewpoints that are expressed there, something that you don't see in most of the online media. On today's paltalknewsnetwork.com front page, you will see dispatches from Seattle, Washington, Washington, D.C., London, New York, and Jerusalem, because we have our pulse, finger on the pulse of the world. That's the whole idea, is to get input from around the world from multiple perspectives. Speaking about multiple perspectives, yesterday, and this is why you have to check several times a day, because those stories get flipped off the front page very quickly when newer stories come in. But we had a very interesting story from Morocco. The dispatch was from Morocco, complaining about how the news media portrays Islam. And I posted that, and a Muslim woman sent me a message saying, "What's with you, Gary? You're posting something that's pro-Islam, and you have been making anti-Muslim comments." And I pointed out to her that I can't take credit. I did not write the story, but when have I ever said anything that's anti-Muslim? I've never said anything anti-Muslim. In fact, one of my basic principles, and I adhere to it here whenever I see or hear somebody who participates in this forum of my show on the Pal Talk News Network, who makes a comment that's derogatory toward any religion, I nip it in the bud and I challenge it immediately. I don't know where, Nancy, you got the idea that I am anti-Muslim. Far from it. I think that we all can live together in peace in this world of ours, and I think that most Muslims believe that. We all know that there are unfortunately radical Muslims who belong to terrorist organizations who would like to impose their will on others, most notably first fellow Muslims, by the way, and then non-Muslims. But I've never, to my knowledge, expressed any anti-Islamic sentiment of my own. And if I said anything to give you the impression that I had some Islamophobia running through my veins, I apologize for it. But I can't imagine what it could have been that I said, unless my condemnation of Muslim terrorists was interpreted by you as a sweeping condemnation of Islam, which it is not. 7 o'clock tonight, about an hour after this show ends at 6 o'clock New York time, it'll be a time for Sal Lockman's America Works show. A lot of people like Sal because his demeanor is a lot different than mine. It's very measured. He sounds almost like a therapist, maybe because he is. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid today, and guys, you know I have been very concerned about the rhetoric, the level of discourse in this nation for a long time. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid today described his Republican colleagues' refusal to open up Wall Street reform legislation for formal debate as anti-American. Quote, all the talk from the Republicans about wanting to do something about this bill before it gets on the floor is really anti-Senate and anti-American. Then he said, continuing, they keep stalling and they keep stalling, and it appears that they are more concerned in taking care of the fat cats in Wall Street than they are the people who have been hit so hard. Well, you know, I'm as frustrated as the majority leader is that partisan politics are getting in the way of what's best for the country. And this is another example of it. The Republicans unanimously voting against a procedural move that would move the debate forward. But to call them anti-American? Anti-American? Of course, a Republican would never say the same about a Democrat, would she? Maybe she would. We have tape here of Michelle Bachmann, a Republican from Minnesota, being interviewed. Let's hear what Michelle Bachmann has to say about the Democrats. That would have been your cue, Boaz.
What I would say is that the news media should do a penetrating expose and take a look. I wish they would. I wish the American media would take a great look at the views of the people in Congress and find out, are they pro-America or anti-America? I think people would love to see an expose like that.
Now, she's referring specifically to the Democrats in answer to a question. Well, where have we heard this anti-American rhetoric before? Can anybody evoke the memory of Joe McCarthy when he was the head of the Senate Committee on Un-American Activities and when he was investigating communists throughout this land of ours? Let's reminisce a little bit about that very horrific time in our history. Boaz, play this clip of Joe McCarthy.
I think we should keep in mind when we refer to Democrats and we refer to the administration that there are definitely two groups of Democrats as of today. Number one, there are the millions of loyal Americans who have voted the Democrat ticket. Individuals who are just as loyal, who hate communism just as much and love America just as much as the average Republican. That's one group. On the other hand, there is that small, closely knit group of administration Democrats who are now the complete prisoners and under the complete domination